I know every operating
At my
system like
last
the
job,
back of
in
my
my current
hand.
role,
I when it comes to
5 years
IT.
of experience and have worked with several people from your company. I've been recognized for my passion. My team is everything.
LinkedIn delivers candidates who rise above the rest. With an up-to-date view into shared connections, skills, and interests you won't find anywhere else. See why 86% of small businesses who post a job on LinkedIn get a qualified candidate within a day. Post a job for free at linkedin.com/achieve. LinkedIn, your next great hire is here.
This episode is brought to you by Unstoppable. Discover the inspiring true story about Anthony Robles, who defied every expectation to become a national wrestling champion in Unstoppable, a new original movie from Amazon MGM Studios and director William Goldenberg, evoking the excitement and camaraderie of classic sports dramas and thrilling wrestling matches. Unstoppable features an all-star ensemble cast, including Jarrell Jerome, Jennifer Lopez, Don Cheadle, Michael Pena, and Bobby Cannavale. Watch Unstoppable now, exclusively on Amazon Prime Video.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we got a ton of San Francisco 49ers coaching news, including who the lead candidate for the special teams coordinator role could be. Is Jeff Ulbrich still an option for defensive coordinator? And what the San Francisco 49ers are doing with Robert Saleh, and an update on their search for a brand new defensive coordinator. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe on the audio podcasting platforms. Leave that review. And let's talk about what happened on the Tim Kawakami and Matt Barrows podcast called 49ers Plus and Minus. There was a ton of coaching news. The first is Nick Sorensen. Yes, that Nick Sorensen, the guy that nobody really wants to still be around. According to Matt Barrows, he believes he is still the leading candidate for the San Francisco 49ers special teams coordinator role. Now, the team did interview a trio of candidates earlier this week, highlighted by Jet Modkins, a Lions coach, and there was Denver Broncos assistant special teams coordinator Chris Banjo and former Panthers interim head coach and coordinator Chris Tabor. If you want to know more about all three of those guys, go watch our previous video or the last podcast on your feed by us. We dive into everything you have to know about all three of those coaches and coordinators. But Nick Sorensen, demoted from defensive coordinator, now the favorite to become the new special teams coordinator in San Francisco. I'm not sure if you know about this, but Sorensen does have 1 year of special teams coordinating experience, all the way back in 2021 when he used to work for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and let's just say didn't go very well. They were the worst ranked, number 32 in the league when it came to special teams EPA. They are one of the worst according to DVOA, so I'm not sure if he's the right guy for the job, but maybe the last 4 years of coaching has improved his ability to improve the Niners special teams coordinator job, because they need it. They're one of the worst units in all football last season with Brian Schneider at the helm. He's gone, but it seems like there'll be some shuffling of coordinator roles, which will somehow still include Nick Sorensen sticking around with the San Francisco 49ers. The other news was quarterback coach Brian Griese, who, after just 3 years of coaching in the NFL as a quarterback's coach with the San Francisco 49ers, has been one of the primary reasons as to why Brock Purdy became a Niner. Don't forget, San Francisco, who had really liked Purdy coming out of the draft, were almost pushed, were edged like, hey, Kyle, you're going to want to go get Brock Purdy by Brian Griese. So I know we're talking about, will the Niners re-sign Brock and how much will he cost? The only reason why we're even having that conversation is because of Brian Griese seeing how great Brock Purdy could be, and obviously it's worked out pretty well for San Francisco 2 of the last 3 seasons. But the big news with Brian Griese was that, again, just after 3 years as a coach with the 49ers, the New York Jets, who are leaving no stone unturned, who are looking for assistants, head coaches, former DCs, former OCs, college coaches, ESPN analysts like Rex Ryan, and even some water boys at time trying to find their next head coach. They requested to talk to Brian Griese, and Brian Griese gave them the proverbial, I don't want to say middle finger, but certainly gave them a hint of like, hey, I'm not going to be there, because he declined their interview request saying, I want to stay in the Bay for who knows how long, maybe 1 year, maybe just waiting for the right job to arise. But the New York Jets were essentially burned by Brian Griese, who turned down their interview for for head coach in 2025. We'll see what happens there, which brings me to the biggest news of the day, because you can talk about Nick Sorensen. Maybe you can find a way to rationalize his demotion becoming into a special teams coordinator job. Whatever. We'll see if it works. I wouldn't love that. I think Tabor and Banjo and Modkins are younger, or at least have more experience, and certainly more proven with what they've done thus far with the Broncos, Lions, Panthers, Bears, and Browns amongst those three coaches' experience. And even Brian Griese. It's great to have Brian Griese, it seems like, back in the Bay for one more season with Brock Purdy. The camaraderie they have, the chemistry they have is really well. Maybe you can open the door for a potential promotion for Brian Griese. You never know. Maybe down the road he'll be the OC once Clay Kubiak eventually leaves. But that's down the road. This is right now. The San Francisco 49ers still are trying to find their next defensive coordinator, and I don't think I'd be wrong to say that their search may have ended before it really ever started, because according to Matt Barrows of The Athletic, this is Robert Saleh's job to lose. If he says no, then they got to go look elsewhere. But right now, and I quote, it is Robert Saleh or bust for the San Francisco 49ers when it comes to looking for their next defensive coordinator. The exact quote I have here, which should excite everybody out there that wants this team to rehire Robert Saleh, is it's Robert Saleh or bust, really, because they haven't done much work with anybody else to this point. I have heard that they have already told Saleh, we will make you the highest paid defensive coordinator in all the land if you sign with us. So now it's a matter of waiting for what Saleh is gonna do. And there's so much to break down within that 1 to 3 sentences of Barrows' comments, which if you haven't heard it yet, go down in the description down below. I'll put the link down there for you if you want to hear it for yourself. But it's like the first minute of the show, it was like, boom, heavy hitting. This is Saleh's job to lose. If he says no, they're burned. They're putting all their chips in the table for Robert Saleh to become this team's next defensive coordinator. And it's really hard to dislike the idea of rehiring Robert Saleh. If you happen to watch my defensive coordinator candidate ranking video, I had him 4th. I explained why in that video, but I'll give you a little bit of taste of it here, simply because it's really familiar and you just don't know if he'll be here for the long haul, which Barrows did give some further answers to in the podcast. That said, am I wrong to say the 49ers are being a little negligent by not looking at other candidates? They did interview Lions passing game coordinator Deshae Townsend last week, which is great, but not to bring race into it, but they've interviewed 2 minority candidates, and that's been it. Now, maybe the entire idea was it's Saleh or nobody else, which if you believe Barrows, it certainly seems like that's the case. So let's kind of check off the Rooney Rule, bring our guy in and call it a day. It just kind of feels like that they're being negligent. Why would you not look elsewhere? You are almost setting yourself up for failure if Saleh goes and gets hired by, let's say, the Jaguars or the Las Vegas Raiders or the Dallas Cowboys, who he has all either interviewed with or is going to interview with by the time the offseason's over with. So it just feels like, why? Like, why would you not at least do your due diligence? Why would you not at least give yourself the opportunity to interview all of these great defensive minds currently on the market. Don't forget, the Niners last offseason, really even 2 off seasons ago, kind of got burned by having these deep playoff runs. DeMeco Ryans leaves. They're like, oh, crap. We went to the NFC Championship game. Let's look at Steve Wilks. And then with Steve Wilks, they go to the Super Bowl, and then, okay, crap. All the other great coordinators and coaches have been hired, and you're kind of left with some scraps, leading to Nick Sorensen being named DC. This year, though, you're 6-11. You had a pretty crappy down year. Now, as a great team you hope can bounce back in 2025, you have the pick of the litter. You can pick anybody. You can go talk to other teams' DCs, other teams' assistants. You can talk to the available coaches, Dennis Allen, Matt Eberflus, Lou Anarumo, and many others along the way, and they're not doing that. It's really confusing for a team that is so competent, that really, is one of the top tier regimes in all of football. How is this the mindset you have of nope, we're going to be blind, we're going to check off some boxes, and we're going to make sure we get our guy, but making sure you get your guy is saying, here, we're only looking at you. Well, Saleh's not doing that, as he shouldn't. Saleh should be going to Jacksonville, in Las Vegas, and the Cowboys, any place that even thinks of hiring him as a head coach. He's talking to those teams, as he should. Meanwhile, San Francisco is sitting there just kind of waiting and hoping well, we gave him a lot of money, and he may or may not come here. We hope he does. I think the idea is that they may have a deal under the table of hey, Rob, go out there and at least give the other teams courtesy interviews. Don't turn down things. That way it doesn't look too bad for you in the next couple years when you inevitably likely leave again. But if you're the Niners, you're playing a dangerous game here. Let's say the Dallas Cowboys, whatever the money would be, say, hey, Rob, we get it. You want to go back to San Francisco? Fine. They'll make you the highest paid DC. Forget that. You get to coach the Dallas Cowboys, the number 1 ranked team on the Forbes list every single year. Jerry Jones, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, the history of multiple Super Bowls. You get to wear the star on the side of your hat or helmet, on the side of your jacket. You get to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and knowing Jerry, if Saleh can be the top candidate there, Jerry would say, forget being the highest paid DC, come be the highest paid head coach. Why would you turn that down? Why? Even if you fail again, maybe there's a conversation to be had of, well, you don't want to fail back-to-back times because then it kind of ruins the opportunity for a third chance. That's fine, but
if your football team had one option in their playbook, the results probably wouldn't be great. The same could be said for your investments. SIBO index options like SPX and XSP can help expand your investing strategies with cash settlement and potential tax advantages. If you're ready for a more dynamic game plan, head to betterwithoptions.com. SIBO, life is better with options. Your investments could be too. There are risks associated with SIBO company products. Review the disclosures and disclaimers at SIBO.com/US_disclaimers.
I would take $15 million a year, coach the Dallas Cowboys, were a place where Wade Phillips and Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy, who was going to be brought back, but then his contract expired. You have longevity. You have a long leash to work with in Dallas, whereas San Francisco is hey, we want you back. John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, you can run the wide 9, the 4-3, cover 3 defense. Great, get us back to who we once were before you left, before DeMeco Ryans left. But you got to wait. You have to hope you're not the second option. You got to hope nobody else bests you. That's why it's so dangerous to let your quarterbacks hit the open market, right? The last thing you want is your quarterback to get a taste of somewhere else and like it more than you. It's why a lot of teams don't wait for big name MLB free agents to become free agents. The Padres traded for Juan Soto, tried to win, realized he wasn't going to re-sign there. The Yankees traded for him, tried to get him in there. He liked it there, and he stayed in New York. just went to the Mets instead. So I get that maybe wasn't the greatest example to use because Soto left, but he always wanted to test the market. Where in San Francisco's case with Saleh, he's already on the open market, and I get he was the first guy you talked to. It was like, oh, Rob's out there, talk to him right now. And I think there is a mutual an agreement. There's a mutual, like, I want to come back to San Francisco. We want you back in San Francisco. This thing worked so well when you were here. Had a top 5 defense in 2019 and 2020. The run defense was so much better. To be fair, the personnel was also much better when he was here the first time. But there's every reason in the book to bring Saleh back. But for Saleh, while there might be some reasons to come back to San Francisco, it's not as if you can't be persuaded to go elsewhere, which if he does, if San Francisco waits for a long time and this thing rides out for, let's say, a month, let's say 2 months, and you're like, oh crap, we're in late February, it's post-Super Bowl, every team can have a shot at their guy now, and Dennis Allen's gone. Eberflus gets hired. Anarumo gets hired. Gus Bradley gets hired. All these candidates we all say, wow, these are really great people. Maybe Ulbrich gets hired elsewhere. You never know. You kind of leave yourself vulnerable, which almost erases the advantage of having this down year in regards to replacing your defensive coordinator. Shanahan said in his post-season wrap-up press conference that we felt there were better names on the market than what we had now. Saleh is certainly one of them, but he isn't the only one. And to sit there and wait and just hope this thing will work out. Now, look, it may work out. This may be oh, wow, Saleh's back, great. Handshakes, introductory press conferences, and defense is playing great again. Awesome. I hope that's the case. But to not even have the wherewithal to say, hey, he may get a better offer somewhere else. And we have to at least protect ourselves. I'm not sure if it's ego from Kyle or John, but it certainly feels like there is this nope, we're going to get him. It's a guarantee we're going to get him, which maybe it is. But from the outside, it doesn't seem that way. They're just waiting of cool, great, we hope Rob comes back, which doesn't feel like the smart move to make in this offseason when you got to win. You really got to win. And if you don't win, heads may roll, or at least they're going to be, the hot seat is certainly turned up on Kyle, John, whoever else is here in the Bay Area. I think it would be smart to talk to Dennis Allen and Eberflus and Anarumo, Gus Bradley, every other assistant coach elsewhere. Talk to the Lions staff, the Falcons staff. I get maybe they don't want to change defensive schemes, knowing the clock is ticking on winning this year and next year in San Francisco, but I don't think I'm being illogical in saying, hey, don't bank on just one candidate. There's a reason why, even if jobs are literally forced to put their open positions on the internet. They have to post them because it's a law, right? Even if they know they're going to internally hire somebody, they have to bring a few candidates in, post the job online, let people apply. Okay, the same thing goes for San Francisco. You plan to hire Robert Saleh, but at least post your job, field some interviews, talk to some people. Don't just sit here and be like, yep, it's Rob's job or bust, and hope it works out. This team should be desperate, and I get them wanting to pay Saleh as the highest paid DC is a desperation move to get him back. Awesome. I appreciate that. But you look at what the Jets are doing. For as terrible as they are run, they are interviewing everybody under the sun in hopes of finding the right coach to lead their franchise back to prominence. You look at teams like the Colts. Anarumo was there. Dennis Allen was there. The Falcons. There are so many other teams that are doing more, where it seems like it is Saleh or bust, that's it. If he doesn't get it, we'll figure something out later. The unfortunate part is, if you wait till later, your candidate list dwindles from 5 great names to 1 great name. From 2 great names to 1 great name. To 1 great name to no great names to replace Robert Saleh. So I just don't think it's smart. However, Matt Barrows did open the door, did add this to the back end of what Saleh is doing, and how maybe they can protect themselves if Saleh intends to not hire or not be hired by them this off season. Barrows said there is some speculation that maybe the Niners have a handshake deal with Jeff Ulbrich if Saleh is hired elsewhere. He also hinted that the Niners have had informal conversations with Ulbrich in the chance Saleh goes to the Jaguars, the Raiders, or the Cowboys as a head coach. So it may not just be as simple as, well, if they're not doing anything, like I've been hinting towards, or like the previous comments by Barrows hinted at, it could very well be that, hey, look, it's Saleh or bust, but Ulbrich is kind of that safety blanket. He was my number 3 option over Saleh to become the new DC, but it certainly feels like that Ulbrich is definitely a name they're kind of keeping their eye on behind the scenes, saying, look, if Saleh goes elsewhere, Ulbrich's our guy, which runs the exact same scheme. You replace Saleh as head coach with the Jets, it'd be like a plug-and-play instant, like this is the exact same guy, maybe minus the rah-rah stuff. Funny enough, Patty Ulbrich, Jeff Ulbrich's mother, happened to follow 49ers Access on Facebook this morning, so maybe there's connections there, albeit Ulbrich, a San Jose State guy, played here for a long time. Could mean nothing, but odd that the day Barrows releases this podcast and Ulbrich's name is like slightly connected to the San Francisco 49ers, Ulbrich's mother is like, hey, Niners, I'll follow you as well. He was obviously in Seattle with Saleh when they were in the kind of Legion of Boom era out there as assistants. So that's also an option. It would make some sense for San Francisco. There is other speculation as maybe the Niners are trying to bring in Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich in one fell swoop, steal Ulbrich from the Jets, you get Saleh as your DC, and the reason as to why that makes sense, it would work, and why people are kind of hinting towards that is because, let's be honest here, Saleh doesn't plan on being in San Francisco for the next 5 years. It's not his plan. His plan is to either be a head coach this offseason or be in San Francisco for 1, and if you're lucky, 2 years, then be a head coach again someday down the road. If you were to bring in Saleh and Ulbrich, and let's say in 1 year's time in 2026, Saleh says, hey, the job I actually want's out there, I'm leaving, Ulbrich steps right in, and you don't have to worry about the continuity problem that has existed the past couple years, because it was Saleh to Ryans. Great, continuity's there, same defense, similar mindsets, very similar demeanors on the sideline. Then it was Ryans to Wilks, then it was Wilks to Sorensen. It was like, whoa, back-to-back defensive coordinator changes, really back-to-back-to-back defensive coordinator changes, doesn't really work out for you. So it could be San Francisco like, look, getting Saleh in here is like the win now method. That's like the big signing. But if we can hire Ulbrich as well, we can also keep this defense intact and have that continuity for, let's say, 4 or 5 seasons and keep this like half a decade run window open where, if you think about it logically, let's say Brock Purdy signs for 4 to 5 years via that big extension he'll get this offseason, you could keep this defense, at least personnel-wise and coaching staff-wise, intact, hopefully, if you bring in Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich. I don't hate that. In fact, it might be the best option out there for the San Francisco 49ers, albeit I would say go get Dennis Allen. Eberflus is certainly out there. Those are my top 2 picks to BDC, but there may be some complications with schematic changes, albeit those are kind of overstated, what they bring to the table and how they can coach this defense. But having that continuity with Saleh and Ulbrich, I mean, that's like an A-plus move to me, and a move that makes the most sense for the San Francisco 49ers moving forward. But tell me down below in the comments, what do you make of the San Francisco 49ers being Robert Saleh or bust when it comes to finding their next defensive coordinator? Do you like the idea of paying him the most money of any DC in the NFL? And do you love the idea of bringing in Jeff Ulbrich to be the continuity for him when when Saleh eventually leaves, maybe in one offseason or two? Or do you hate it? Are you saying, no, Sterling, go get somebody else? They're being foolish. Look at Dennis Allen. Look at Eberflus. Look at anybody else you can find in case Saleh doesn't want to come back to the Bay and burns you, leaving you high and dry. You got to protect yourself sometimes. What do you think is the right move down below? Do you agree with me? Or do you like what San Francisco is doing, if you believe the report by Matt Barrows? Also, do you like the idea of Nick Sorensen being this team's next special teams coordinator? I don't love that, but tell me down below your thoughts on Nick Sorensen's chances to be a good special teams coordinator in San Francisco. If you could, also don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave that 5-star review. Follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. And if you want to save some money on sporting event tickets or a concert, use our promo code 49ersaccess at SeatGeek.com, 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com, and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Enjoy your 3-day weekend and make sure to come back here for all the latest Niner news and coverage. And my name is Sterling Bennett. And as always, until next time, stay faithful.